Okay, so it's time for us to continue our coverage over the X-Men. But here is the thing. So when it came to me sitting down and kind of wanting to record some videos, I thought we were officially ready to just dive into the Phalanx Covenant storyline. Because to me personally, we only had one book left to cover, and that would be Excalibur. And then we can dive into the next crossover. But then I realized I didn't cover X-Force issue number 37. And honestly, at first, I was kind of wondering like how important this book could be for me to cover before we can dive into the Phalanx Covenant. And then I read it. And then I realized that this book is really important because this gives us some of the pieces of some of the origins of some of the externals. You see, when it comes to the externals, they are a group of mutants who all have the ability of immortality. But here's the thing, even though they all have immortality, they also have their own abilities of their own as well. Now, this book is not going to give us the complete origin of all the different members of the externals because we have met a few of them, but we do get a look at some of the origins of some of the members of the externals, which honestly is pretty cool. And for me personally, the opening pages of this book does an amazing job of pulling you in. And here is the reason why, because in the opening pages of this book, we do pick up with Apocalypse. Now you would think automatically like, okay, cool. We are about to get the origin of Apocalypse here. No, we are not. We're only getting a small piece of his origin, and that's really it. But we're also using Apocalypse as a way to introduce the origin of another character, and that would be Saul, who's also an external. Now, for me personally, this is the moment where you have X-Men comics saying Apocalypse is also an external as well. And the reason why I'm saying that because he's telling us that he's trying to find somebody who had also lived a very long time. And so this is the moment right here we get confirmation that Apocalypse is also external as well. Before Apocalypse, he went out of his way to find Saul. And the reason why, because Saul was out there better known as this powerful magician in the 12th century, where you had people being able to spread rumors about him, being this powerful warrior who took on armies left and right by using his magical skills against those armies. And so for Apocalypse, he also heard that Saul had lived a very long life. And so for Apocalypse, he wanted to meet this person who had also lived a very long life, but also this person who's very powerful. Now for Saul, he's not really down with the idea of fighting Apocalypse, but instead he tells Apocalypse, let me show you something really cool because I feel like this might intrigue you more than how long I had officially lived. And so you have Saul showing Apocalypse the celestial ship. Now, this ship is really important, and here's the reason why, because this is the same one we saw over in X Factor Comics, the one Apocalypse used against our heroes, the same one our heroes used after they were able to claim the ship as their own, but away from Apocalypse. Now, we had learned over time that this ship was created by the Celestials many years ago as a way to collect data on Earth, but apparently by this point it had crashed on Earth and Saul found it. But now it's Apocalypse trying to claim it for himself. And so you have Apocalypse go out of his way to stab Saul in the back as a way to claim the ship for himself. Now for Saul, he realized that Apocalypse never did figure out how in the world Saul was able to live a long life. The whole idea of him being a mutant, but also being a external as well. But with his death by the hands of Apocalypse, it taught him a very important lesson. The whole idea of there's always somebody out there who could possibly be more powerful than you, but also more evil than you. And so now we jump over to the present day. And this kind of picks up where our last video had left off at. At the end of our last video, you had some members of the externals pay a visit over to Cannonball and his family to find Cannonball. And the reason why, because by this point in Marvel's timeline, it was told to us that Cannonball was an external. And so it's more of them saying like, hey, we need your help. Now, it's not them saying like, we want you to join our ranks. No, it's more because some of the members of the externals have gotten the legacy virus. Now, as we all know, in the 1990s in X-Men comics, you had Strife bring back a legacy virus from the future into the past and began to kill off mutants left and right. Now, for the externals, at first, they were not worried until some of them have gotten the virus. And so for the externals, they kind of believe in the possibility that this could be their end, that this virus might be able to overcome their immortality. We also learned that one of them has the legacy virus right at this exact moment, and that would be Absalom. Now, Absalom is freaking out because there is a huge possibility that he could die. But also, we're going to use this book as a way to kind of dive into his origin. Not completely, but when he found out that one, he was a mutant, and two, when he had immortality as well. You see, we learned that back in the time when the good old Western days for America, when it came to Absalom, he went over to a small town on the run because he was a well-known felon. But while out there in this small town, he found this old man. Now, this old man was a legend back in his days. By this point, he had officially just retired from challenging people. But for Absalom, he wanted to see how good the old man was. But he hated the idea the old man had declined his challenge. And so you had Absalom shoot the old man right in the back, killing him. And of course, he was caught for murder. Now, when they're going to hang him, that was when his mutant powers had activated. Now, when they did, the townsfolk began to freak out. And of course, you have some folks pull out guns to shoot to kill him, which they did. But then after a while, he woke up in a coffin and realized that he had also gained the power of immortality. And so that was the point where he learned he was a mutant, but also somebody with the power of immortality. Now, for Gideon, as we go back over to the present day, before we are able to kind of learn about his origin, it's also Gideon telling us that each member of the externals, they kind of represent something. Like, for example, the whole idea that Saul represents patience. For Gideon, he represents the whole idea of opportunity. But for Sam, Guthrie, aka Cannonball, they're saying that you, son, can represent the whole idea of hope. Before we were able to kind of learn what he means by that, we jump over to Cable and Domino. Now, for Cable and Domino, we also getting reminded here that these two characters are now currently dating one another, but we're also kind of learning that X-Force is about to move over to a new base very soon. And so you have Cable and Domino going out of their way to kind of see these different places that Domino has chosen that could be a new base for X-Force. The next page, you have a couple of things happen all at once. So for example, we do pick up with a homeless man in the Bronx going into a rundown building. Now, while trying to do that, he does get attacked by something, but we have no idea what attacked him. We also pick up with Detective Hidalgo. Now, for Detective Hidalgo, he's working on a case that involves Pharaoh and her sister because apparently something happened to their entire family, but we have no idea what exactly went down just yet. But apparently they're getting very close to figuring out what went down in that home a long time ago. So building up to the idea of us finally learning about the origin of Pharaoh and also her sister. But now we jump back over to Cannonball, the externals, and also Boom Boom. Now, for me personally, this was the moment where I was truly excited because we were going to dive into the origin of Gideon. But for me personally, his origin was not that great. It's the whole idea that he was able to come to America by riding with Christopher Columbus. But while doing that, he got a disease. That disease had basically killed him off. But once he had arrived over to America, that was the moment where he was resurrected, where he had learned that one, he had the ability of immortality, and two, that he was a mutant. And that's really it for his origin story by this point in our coverage over the X-Men. But after learning the origin of Gideon, we kind of get into the idea of Cannonball kind of judging the externals. Now, for me personally, I kind of love this a lot. And here is the reason why. Because it's really more of Cannonball saying, you guys had the ability of immortality, but you guys had basically wasted it because you guys did not use the opportunity to help make the world a better place. Instead, you used that chance as a way to build up your own personal lives, and that's really it. But here you are now acting like a bunch of crybabies about the idea that it's not fair that you guys are going to die. No, you guys had all those lives, all those times to be able to do great things for yourself, but also for the world. And here you are now wasting it. Now, for Absalom, he gets very upset because of him. What right does Cannonball have to judge him? Now, while being very upset, his powers go out of control. Now, usually, this is the moment where if you're somebody with the legacy virus, you are going to die because your powers have gotten to that point where the virus is basically killing you off at this exact moment. But he does not die, luckily. But at the same time, though, it's more of like, look, the virus is getting to that point where it's going to kill you guys off. But here's the thing. If you guys are able to overcome the legacy virus, then use this new chance in life to do great things for the world, not bad things for the world. And for Gideon, he's kind of like, damn, the kid is right. Now, it's also Gideon kind of telling us that there's somebody close to Cannonball who may or may not have the cure to the virus, but we have no idea who that person could possibly be. But with that being said, this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. I know it's not much, guys, but you know me, I'm trying my best to cover every single thing about the X-Men because honestly, I feel really bad when I do skip over some stories, but at the same time, some stories really do matter a lot more than others, like this one right here. It had to be covered no matter what. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see you on the next comic book video.